Have you ever wondered why it feels so easy to say yes in the moment, but so heavy when you think about it later? Or even deeper, why you sometimes agree to things you didn't even want, as if something inside you responded before you fully understood what was being asked? That moment happens more often than you realize. A request is made. A question is asked. A situation appears. Nothing dramatic. Nothing alarming. Just a normal interaction. And for a brief second, there is silence in your mind. No deep thinking yet. No careful analysis. No full awareness of consequences. Just a moment passing. And then it happens. You respond. Yes. Simple. Natural. Automatic. Almost as if the answer was already decided before you had time to think. And the conversation continues like nothing important happened. But later, when everything is quiet, something changes. The memory replays itself. Not as a clear event, but as a feeling. And then the question slowly forms in your mind. Why did I say yes when I didn't even want to? That question is more important than it looks. Because it reveals something deeper about how your mind actually works. Welcome to Hidden Minds. A space where we explore the invisible psychology behind your thoughts, decisions, emotions, and behavior. Not the surface-level choices you think you are making, but the hidden systems underneath them. Today, we are going deeper than persuasion. We are exploring why the human brain defaults to yes even when no would sometimes be more honest, more protective, or more aligned with what you actually want. To understand this, you have to start from something very fundamental. Your brain is not designed to make perfect decisions. It is not designed to maximize happiness. It is not designed to ensure long-term success. It is designed for survival. And survival, in its original form, had nothing to do with comfort or modern life goals. It had everything to do with one thing. And the brain almost always chooses what reduces discomfort fastest in the present moment. Not what is best long-term. Not what aligns with your boundaries. But what keeps emotional stability intact right now. This is one of the most important psychological patterns in human behavior. The brain prioritizes immediate emotional relief over long-term consequence. That is why yes often happens so quickly. Not because you consciously chose it, but because your nervous system was avoiding emotional friction. And this pattern does not only appear in small conversations. It shows up in much larger parts of life. Think about someone stuck in a situation they no longer enjoy. A job they have outgrown. A routine that drains them. A responsibility that feels heavier over time. From the outside, the answer looks simple. Leave. Change. Move on. But internally, the decision is not processed as simple at all. Because the brain does not compare happiness and unhappiness directly. It compares familiarity and uncertainty. And familiarity, even when painful, feels safer than uncertainty. Because familiarity is predictable. The brain understands its patterns. It knows what to expect. But uncertainty introduces unknown outcomes. And unknown outcomes create emotional simulations in the mind. What if it gets worse? What if I fail? What if I regret it? What if I cannot handle it? These are not logical predictions. They are emotional projections. And emotional projections often feel real enough to influence behavior immediately. So the brain chooses stability over possibility. Even if stability is uncomfortable. Even if it is limiting. Even if it slowly reduces motivation and energy over time. Because stability feels safer than uncertainty. And over time, this repeated choice becomes identity. I guess this is just my life. But in reality, it was not life that locked the person in place. It was the brain's preference for predictability. Now extend this into everyday social life. Someone asks you for something. Your time. Your energy. Your attention. Your help. You are already tired. Already stretched. Already mentally full. But still, you say yes. Not because you analyzed your capacity, but because your brain quickly simulated emotional outcomes. If I say no, they might feel disappointed. If I say no, things might become awkward. If I say no, I might feel guilty. If I say no, I might be seen differently. And emotional discomfort feels immediate in the nervous system. It is felt faster than logic can intervene. So instead of choosing boundaries, the brain chooses emotional relief. Yes. But what happens next is not immediate. It builds slowly. One yes becomes multiple yes. Multiple yes become habit. Habit becomes expectation. And expectation becomes identity. And somewhere along that process, something shifts internally. You begin to feel tired without understanding why. You begin to feel stretched without knowing the cause. You begin to feel emotionally overloaded while still saying yes to new things. And yet saying no still feels heavier than continuing the pattern. Because the brain continues to treat conflict as more dangerous than exhaustion. Now go deeper into another layer. Ambition. Growth. Change. The things people say they want but struggle to begin. A new habit. A new skill. A new direction. A new version of themselves. At first, motivation exists. But then awareness of difficulty appears. And the brain starts generating predictions. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if I start and can't continue? What if people see me struggle? And here is where something important happens. The brain does not treat failure as information. It treats failure as identity risk. Not, I failed at something. But, failure might define me. So instead of action, it chooses protection. And protection often looks like delay. Waiting. Avoiding danger. Thousands of years ago, human beings lived in environments where uncertainty could mean threat. A sound in the dark could mean safety or danger. A stranger could mean help or harm. A new situation could mean opportunity or risk. The brain evolved in a world where not knowing was dangerous. So it developed a simple internal rule over time. Familiar equals safe. Unknown equals risk. This rule became deeply embedded into human psychology. Not as a thought, but as an automatic reaction system. And even now, in a completely different modern world, that system is still running in the background of your mind. So when you face anything uncertain, your brain does not begin with logic. It begins with emotional safety. It asks a question faster than your conscious awareness can respond. Is this safe or not? And safety, in the brain's language, is not just physical protection. It includes emotional comfort, social approval, avoidance of conflict, avoidance of embarrassment, avoidance of rejection. This is why saying no often feels heavier than it logically should. Because no is not just a refusal. It is a social signal. And your brain interprets social signals as survival-relevant information. When you say no, your mind immediately begins predicting outcomes. Will they be upset? Will they misunderstand me? Will this create tension? Will I lose approval? Will I feel guilty afterward? Even if none of these things actually happen, the brain reacts to the possibility of them. And possibility alone is enough to create emotional pressure. Because your mind does not wait for reality to unfold before reacting. It reacts to prediction. So in that moment, your brain runs a fast internal comparison without you realizing it. If I say no, I might experience discomfort, tension, or emotional risk. If I say yes, I maintain smoothness, reduce conflict, and avoid immediate discomfort. Overthinking. Preparing. Planning without execution. And delay feels safe. Even though delay slowly becomes stagnation. This is how persuasion works in daily life. Not through force. Not through control. But through emotional efficiency. Anything that reduces uncertainty, avoids conflict, or creates immediate relief feels correct in the moment. That is why people agree quickly. That is why people struggle with boundaries. That is why people conform without realizing it. Not because they are unaware. But because emotional safety often overrides logic in real time. And over time, something subtle happens. Repeated automatic yes responses begin to reshape how you live. You stop asking what you want. And start asking what avoids discomfort. And slowly, life becomes less about intention and more about reaction. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. But quietly. Until one day you notice something unsettling. You are not always choosing your life. You are responding to it. But awareness changes this pattern. Because the moment you notice it without judgment, something opens inside your mind. A gap between feeling and response. And in that gap, something new appears. Choice. Not automatic reaction. Not emotional pressure. But awareness. And what you can see clearly, you can begin to change. So maybe the psychology of saying yes is not really about persuasion at all. But about the brain's constant attempt to avoid discomfort in every possible form. And once you see that clearly, you start noticing something important. Not every yes is agreement. Some are fear. Some are avoidance. Some are emotional protection. So ask yourself this honestly. If fear, discomfort, and social pressure were removed completely from your decisions, how many of your current yes would still exist? And what kind of life would remain underneath all the agreements you made just to feel safe? Drop your answer in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this exploration, like, share, and subscribe. Until next time. Keep exploring your hidden mind.